Thanks for coming, everyone. I'm thrilled to welcome you to Zillow tonight. My name is Chloe Harford, and I'm the Vice President of Rentals here at Zillow. We're really excited to be hosting this event to launch the One Home campaign. I don't know how much all of you know about Zillow and Zillow Rentals, so I'm going to start by just explaining a little bit about what we do and why we're so excited about working with this campaign tonight. So Zillow launched 9 years ago, and we've grown in that time to be the largest real estate site on the internet. We have 89 million users a month. And more recently, we have focused on the rental marketplace. We saw a huge opportunity in this space. There was a lot of consumer pain, and we saw an opportunity to create a new marketplace. Renters didn't have anywhere to go. Like in the for sale marketplace, there's an MLS where all the listings are aggregated. However, in the rentals marketplace, there isn't any place like that. There's no place a renter can go to see all the inventory available. And so that's what we've set out to do. We've been doing this for a couple of years, and we're making a good start. So we have 16 million users a month now, so we're the biggest rental site on the internet. We are particularly strong on mobile. The rental demographic tends to be a little bit younger, so 2/3 of our traffic is on mobile, and at the weekends that's 70%. The way that we get the inventory is we are focused on getting all types of inventory. There have been some other sites out there that have focused just on a small segment, like for example the multifamily apartments. But what we realized is that renters wanted to see every segment of the marketplace, not just those large apartments, but also single family homes, small multiplexes, condos, everything. And so we have provided tools for landlords to post their listings for free to Zillow, in particular Postlet. So if anyone's not aware of them, feel free to go ahead and post your listings to Zillow, get in front of the biggest audience. So another big pain that renters have, particularly at the moment, is around affordability. So renting is at all-time highs right now. It's costing renters in the Seattle metro over 30% of their income to afford the median rent. That's never been higher. Historically, that number's been at around 23%. And compare that to owning a home. Owning a home actually is at all-time most affordable rates. So buying a home only costs about 23% of someone's income in the Seattle metro area. The problem is that renters are facing these high rents and not able to save money for a down payment, and that's delaying people moving from the rental market to buy their first home. And so we're seeing a lot of pressure on the rental market, a lot of demand and all-time high rental rates. So that's creating another problem that we're here to think about tonight, which is access to the rental industry for the homeless people. So when there's so much demand for rental inventory from just everybody, you can imagine how hard it must be for homeless people to get onto the property ladder. And so we're really excited by this opportunity to work with these organizations who are trying to solve these problems. And if you'd like to know more about the data I was talking about, I wanted to mention that we have one of our economists, Aaron. I'm not sure I can see him right now, but he'll be around later on after the speakers, and he can share more information about rental affordability and other areas of economic research that we do on the rental industry here at Zillow. But right now I wanted to introduce the man behind tonight's campaign, Mark Putnam, who is the director of the Committee to End Homelessness, and he's going to say a few words.
Thanks to Zillow for hosting this. This was a brainchild over coffee about 6 months ago with Rebecca Bastian, who works here and a good friend of mine, and I really appreciate you guys hosting tonight. So welcome to One Home. We're pleased to see so many people that we do recognize around the room, our partners, as well as those that we don't recognize that are potentially new partners for us. One Home is a partnership of landlords and the partners of the Committee to End Homelessness. At the Committee on Homelessness, we believe that we can make homelessness rare in King County. And in order to do so, we need the partnership of each sector of our community. The goal of One Home is obviously to bring more landlords into partnership with us. In King County, we estimate that at a given time, about 1,000 households, 1,000 families, veterans, singles, who have experienced homelessness are actively looking for a unit. They're out there, they actually have in their hands a rental assistance voucher. They have the means to rent. They also have support services, so they have some case management or some job training that they can access to help them be a stable tenant. And we also have tools, including a risk mitigation fund for landlords, so that if a tenant has difficulty, there's damage to the unit, or you may have to do an eviction, we have a fund that can support a landlord to make that transition. We're asking tonight and throughout the course of the next year for each landlord in our community, those that are here and those that aren't, to rent one unit, or if you have a large portfolio, 1% of your portfolio, and make that available to folks that have been homeless and be a part of the solution in our community. So we just have a short program for you tonight. We want to give you lots of time to mingle. And we're going to have partners at stations over here to tell you a little bit more about some of the work we do. We also have some follow-up events that we'll make sure that you know about. First, I want to thank our partners for helping us put this on today. The United Way of King County, who you'll hear from. Seattle University created a great website for us. The YWCA's Landlord Liaison Project, the Gates Foundation, the Seattle and King County and Renton Housing Authorities, the City of Seattle, King County, and of course Zillow. As I said, Rebecca and Chloe and Aaron, we really appreciate your hosting us here tonight at your beautiful headquarters. I wish it was a little earlier in the year so we could all see the view. We just see some pretty lights out there. And I also particularly want to thank our elected officials that are here as well tonight, including County Executive Constantine, and in place of Mayor Ed Murray, Deputy Mayor Heo Kim is here tonight as well. And thank you, of course, to all the landlords that are here. And with that, we want to start with a brief panel. Sue Sherbrooke, who is the CEO of the YWCA, is going to pose a couple, we'll hear from a landlord and a tenant about sort of how this partnership has worked for them. So, thanks, Sue.
Thanks, Mark. And thank you, Zillow, for supporting the One Home effort. For those of you who may not know us well, the YWCA believes that the community is strongest when every woman achieves her full potential. And to that end, one of our major efforts is ending homelessness for women and families. We own and operate housing, everything from emergency housing to permanent affordable housing, so I can identify with the landlords in the audience. We also offer the coaching and advocacy and support that many women and families need to leave homelessness behind once and for all. What we and our nonprofit partners cannot do is meet the demand for safe, decent, affordable housing all by ourselves. That's why the partnership we're talking about tonight, the Landlord Liaison Project, is so incredibly important. LLP connects homeless households with rental housing in the private market. It started in 2009. We have 213 area landlords and nearly 400 properties around King County actively engaged in Landlord Liaison Project. We develop relationships with landlords, providing them the safety net they need to say yes to housing homeless individuals and families who would, frankly, be very easy to turn away. These families and individuals have the resources to pay rent, but they also have bad credit, criminal histories, mental illness, developmental disabilities, and any number of other barriers. So we provide a safety net so that people like you can say yes to these very deserving families. The safety net includes ongoing case management by our 69 partner agencies, many of whom are in the room tonight. a 24/7 hotline for landlords to call when issues come up, housing support specialists to intervene and help people keep their housing, and the mitigation fund that Mark mentioned is there to help with back rent or damages when, despite our very best efforts, things don't work out. We have a tradition at the Landlord Liaison Project at LLP that every time we find a landlord and connect that landlord with one of our households, staff rings a bell in the office. I love it. I've been there a couple times when that happens. And at last count, they had gotten to ring that bell 2,098 times. Yeah. For our most recent reporting year, 9 out of 10 households remained housed at least a year. And that's tremendous. That's a tremendous testament to our residents and our landlords and to the work that it takes to make that happen. But what better way for you to hear more about LLP than to hear it firsthand from landlords and residents who participate in it? So to start, I'd like to introduce Raj Kumar. By day, Mr. Kumar is a software development manager working in Bellevue and has been a rental property owner for about 3 years. Prior to becoming a landlord, Mr. Kumar worked with children of homeless families and has a good working understanding of the challenges that face them when they enter the rental market. Mr. Kumar owns rental properties in both King and Pierce County. So Raj?
Thank you, Sue, and thank you, Zillow. I use Zillow heavily, and now I use Postlet for it, which is a sister concern of Zillow to advertise my properties. So I just want to quickly talk about my experience and how I got involved with LLP. About 18 months or so ago, I did not hear about LLP. One of my potential tenants saw my listing on Zillow, and she contacted me asking if I work with LLP clients, and I asked her what is LLP. So she gave me a brief introduction about LLP and what they do, and I did some research myself. But I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to relax my criteria to overcome the barriers she had. So I said, okay, I'm going to show you the property and then we'll talk about it and then see where we can take it from there. I was very apprehensive. I showed her the property when I met her, and what she told me about her barriers, which happened. Something happened about 7 or 8 years before that time. And the person I was talking to me, it just totally seemed like two different people. She was on verge of turning her life around. She had a little child and a teenage boy, and she was taking classes to turn her life around, get a career, and she had a part-time job. So I told myself, I have a small portfolio, but what if I tried with one unit and see how it works? And even before that, I talked to Mike Oliver that time to understand more about the program. How would it cover the worst case scenarios if a tenant moves out or would not pay the rent, or I have to evict them, things like that. And they gave me a great assurance. They stand behind me. I had never had to. So after that, I worked with that lady, and she's one of my model tenants. She is into her second year of lease with me, and I told her because of her I started with LLP, and because of her I keep going back. Every time I put my listings on internet, before that I just go to LLP and tell them, is there any family that can be housed in this particular unit? It's all because of her and her behavior. She has great communication and she's working towards her college degree. So after that I got 3 more tenants through the program, and I'm very, very happy. I never had to evict anybody from the program. There had been a couple of times where tenant had some hardship and couldn't pay the rent, and LLP was right on there, and they were working with me and the tenant to figure out what resources were available, and always came through. And if it happened to be the worst case scenario, they told me they will stand behind me and would not let me lose my faith in the program. So I'm really happy that I participated in the program and overcame my fears. So my call to my fellow landlords is that start with one unit, build your own experience. What the worst could happen, and whatever worst could happen, that can happen with a client or a tenant from open market. So take your chance, build your own experience. I'm telling from my experience that I don't see myself stopping, going back to LLP and offering more units.
Now, please join me in welcoming LaTanya Gertman, who has been living in King County for 4 years. A mother of 2 children, she's now living in an affordable apartment in South King County, thanks to a landlord who leased her a unit, knowing that she had prior screening barriers. LaTanya?
I really want to thank LLP program for helping me and my family. I lost my job in 2013. I got hurt on my job. I worked with DDD clients, and I lost my home, my car, I lost everything. I thought our lives were just over. And I was living from place to place, even taking my whole entire paycheck, living in hotels, living with friends. And my son goes to Auburn Youth Resource, where the counselor there, she referred me to the LLP program, not knowing that I would get accepted. I did an application on Thursday, and they reviewed it on Monday. I got a call from them on Wednesday, and I got a place within 3 weeks. And I think the staff there, because they were so nice, they even offered a budgeting class, which I never had to budget money, and I learned how to budget money through attending their orientation class. And I thank them very much. Any questions?
Thank you so much. Thank you, that was great just to be able to hear. I hope that was illuminating for everybody. We have another panel. I want to introduce John Fine, who's the CEO of the United Way of King County, a stalwart partner in our efforts in our community to end homelessness. And he's going to introduce additional panelists, some distinguished folks from the federal, state, and local, or federal and local levels. So thanks, John. Yeah.
Thanks, Mark. I'm glad to be here on behalf of United Way, and I'm particularly glad to see so many parts of the community who are coming together to help solve a critical piece of this homelessness puzzle. United Way is a longtime leader in the community's effort to end homelessness. It's something that's at the heart of our mission, which is to help people in need and solve some of our community's toughest challenges. In partnership with the YWCA and others, we've long backed the Landlord Liaison Project, and we're excited about what it's done. The incentives and protections for landlords to rent to people who might otherwise be homeless are critical, and we're pleased to support them. We've seen it works. With the added support, people who might become homeless stay stable. The ounce of prevention keeps homelessness rare, which is one of our key goals as a community. And if someone does become homeless, getting them quickly back to a home, ideally a private sector home, is a way to make homelessness brief. And we know that if homelessness is brief, it will probably also be one time, which makes perfect intuitive sense. If you break someone's fall, they don't get hurt as bad, and they have a better chance of healing. So we've been an enthusiastic backer of landlord support programs, and what's exciting about tonight is that we're talking about taking a great proven idea to a larger scale. It can only be done in partnership, and other key partners are the different levels of government who help create the framework and mobilize the resources to make something like this work. And so it's great to have 3 senior government leaders with us tonight to talk about their commitment to the program and the role they intend to play in taking this forward. First, I want to welcome the Executive Director of the United States Interagency Council on Homelessness, Laura Zeilinger. Come on up. In her role, Laura coordinates policies among 19 different federal departments and agencies, as well as partnerships with state and local communities, nonprofits, and the private sector. She earlier worked in DC government, helping drive its work to end homelessness. Next, Hae-Hook Kim, who is Deputy Mayor for External Affairs for the City of Seattle. Before being appointed by Mayor Murray, she was Executive Director of Interim Community Development Association, which works for affordable housing for Asian, Pacific Islander, immigrant, and refugee communities in Seattle. And finally, for our panel, we have County Executive Dal Constantine. Dal, of course, previously served in both the King County Council and the state legislature, representing West Seattle. Throughout his career, he has been a strong champion for housing, and as part of that, Dal served as a co-chair of the Committee to End Homelessness Governing Board for 5 years. Thank you to our panelists. So I'm going to ask them a couple questions, and I'm going to start with Laura. Could you tell us about the national trends that you're seeing from your perch from the federal government?
At the federal level, we have a goal, a number of goals around ending homelessness that are concrete, aggressive, and measurable. To end homelessness among veterans, which is a shared goal here locally, thanks to the leadership at the city and county level, by the end of 2015, just about a year from now. We have the goal to end chronic homelessness a year later, by the end of 2016, and to end homelessness among families, youth, and children by the end of 2020. So those are some bold, aggressive, measurable goals with a federal strategic plan called Opening Doors that is really the framework about how we get there for all populations. And I'm happy to say that when we look at the data, which we measure by the annual one-night counts that communities throughout the nation do, that we are making progress. We are actually, year after year since 2010, when we released Opening Doors, changing the trajectory on homelessness in our country. We've shown year after year increasing results. So since we released the plan in 2010, we've reduced homelessness among veterans in our nation by 1/3. We have reduced unsheltered homelessness among veterans in that time by 43%. So that is incredible work, reaching folks who for a very long time were overrepresented in the homeless population through very intentional efforts to implement the solutions we know work. We're really showing that homelessness is imminently solvable. Overall homelessness in that time is down by more than 10%. Family homelessness is down by 15% nationwide, including a 53% reduction in unsheltered homelessness among families. Chronic homelessness down 21% in that time frame. So what we're seeing the largest decreases in unsheltered homelessness in our nation, showing that we are doing a better job at outreach, at reaching folks who've fallen through the cracks, and that we are really breaking it down by subpopulations and implementing the practices that we know work, and seeing results by that.
So, Laura, there are a bunch of landlords here. Help tell us what role they can play in this equation.
So landlords are obviously an essential part. If people don't have access to housing, even if we have subsidies that make housing more affordable, then this is not a problem that we can solve. The communities that are driving the most progress on homelessness have exactly those types of partnerships. And I think I couldn't say it better than you already heard today, but access is a big issue. So right now, for example, you have about 80 veterans who have a voucher in hand that can help pay their rent, who are walking around looking for apartments to rent with nobody who yet has been able to offer a unit that they can rent with that voucher. So we need to have the supply to do that. That is absolutely a critical piece of the puzzle. There is no way that we will build our way out of this with all new projects in housing alone. We need to be able to take a chance on folks, and you are so lucky in this community because almost nowhere else do I go if people stepped up to basically eliminate all risk. the way they've done it here. And I think the experience that you heard already is a very powerful one. And I'll just give an example from my own community. When I worked at the local level, there was a gentleman who was a veteran who was just a few blocks outside of the Capitol by Union Station in Washington, D.C., who had been homeless on that corner for decades. And I worked for a mayor, and we had a very aggressive initiative to move folks off the street in a housing first way, but this was a guy who just would not accept offers of housing. He believed he had orders from the Secret Service to be there on that corner, and he was not going to stand down without specific orders to do so. I mean, he had dated Princess Di. He had a very great history of experience in his life, but he needed to be, in his mind, in that space, and really a lot of, and he was just had a ton of stuff. It was just very, very visible in a very prime location, and one that my boss walked by or drove by just about every day. So our success, no matter how many folks we got into housing, was really about whether this gentleman was still on that corner. We were able to negotiate with a landlord who had a very prime housing option, an apartment building that overlooked that corner. And we're talking, again, blocks from the Capitol, blocks from Union Station, a very high rent property, but he was able to rent it to us at a little bit less than what he would have gotten in without having to participate in the program that we were renting through, and took it because it was also not necessarily good for him or good for the community to have somebody who was just rooted right there. So we were able to meet him where he was at, on a corner that overlooked, on a unit that overlooked his corner, and really support somebody making a transition where, from a place where he had been for decades. And so without landlords really willing to sort of work with us to think outside the box, make opportunities available, it's something that wouldn't have happened. And it was a really, really powerful and meaningful way that we were able to continue to drive change.
So let me ask you one more question. From your perspective, what does ending homelessness look like? We're looking to not just manage it, but end it here. What should we be striving for?
I think the way that you think about and talk about it here is very much like the way we think about our goals at the federal level. That homelessness, we know that as long as people experience poverty, unemployment, mental illness, family rejection, that people will experience a housing crisis. They may become homeless. But we need to have systems in place to ensure that that is rare, brief, and non-recurring. So that means that when people experience a housing crisis, that there is outreach in place, that they can access a safe place to come inside, where there are services that can support them on a rapid pathway into housing with whatever community supports are needed to support their longevity and their success in that unit. So it means that we don't have the kind of unsheltered homelessness that we see around us, and it means that we have a crisis response system that does that really is able to help people have that access, that quick access, and moves with urgency for folks to be home.
Thanks. So Dal, let me ask you the next question. You've been at this for a while. How are we doing in King County, and how could we be doing?
Well, thanks. First of all, for the landlords here, I wanted to tell you a little bit about my background before public office. I was a manager at one point of a building here in downtown Seattle, 55-unit buildings, about 2/3 market rate and about 1/3 income indexed or subsidized, mostly Section 8. And so I have some pretty direct experience with tenants in the exact same circumstance, some of whom had vouchers and some of whom did not. I also practiced landlord-tenant law for quite a while, and also have been a landlord myself and a member of the Rental Housing Association in the past. Don't tell my Democratic colleagues. That's where I come from, and I understand the challenges you face. And I will say, before I launch into answering your question, that what I found when I was managing that building is that your income, your means, do not have much connection to your personal comport, the way you conduct yourself as a tenant. We had irresponsible subsidized tenants. We certainly had irresponsible tenants who were paying market rate from their own funds. And I think the proportions were about the same. So any thought to the contrary is probably rooted in biases that we all carry with us. I want to let you know that King County is very much in the middle of the work of ending homelessness in our region. As our director of the committee, Mark Putnam, said, and we are so fortunate to have found such a great, still new director for the Committee to End Homelessness. He said that there are nearly 1,000 people in our community who currently have in hand a voucher for housing. These are folks who are walking around with a ticket in their hand to end their own homelessness, and they need somebody to cash it for them, to take it from them and exchange it for the housing they need. We need a landlord willing to take that ticket. And our goal in this next year is to find 1,000 private units for that very real money that these folks are walking around with right now, that will get them into safe, secure housing and help them get their lives moving forward in the way they want. To do this, we obviously need landlords to join us in greater numbers. The Landlord Liaison Project you heard about earlier is showing the way. King County, through our voter-approved, now twice, Veterans and Human Services levy, is providing funding for the Landlord Risk Reduction Fund. And we're also helping provide funding for other key elements of the project. The One Home campaign is going to build on that effort. The Regional Veterans Initiative is something I launched last year. We're in the first year of a 2-year project focused on helping our veterans navigate the very complex system, to help them find housing, to help them find that employment assistance through case management, job coaching, cross-system training so that everyone in the system knows what the other is doing, and more. They serve their country, and it is our responsibility to honor that service by helping them transition home and to a home. We've embraced rapid rehousing in this region, which moves people quickly into housing and away from shelter by helping with moving costs and rental assistance and job training. John, you were talking earlier about breaking someone's fall. It's so critical to help people avoid falling to the bottom, bottoming out, incurring all the damage that happens when you become homeless and then you become persistently homeless. And instead, taking the small steps to help people get through that rough patch, to draw on their own strengths and be able to move on with their lives. And we're expanding rapid rehousing now, not just for families, but now for single adults and for veterans, because we know that's a strategy that works. It's the ounce of prevention that John spoke of. As a region, we've learned to effectively address homelessness, and the way we do it is by drawing on all sectors. The collective impact model is talked about a lot these days in a lot of the work that all of us do. And that couldn't be more true than in the area of homelessness. We need everyone aiming at the same goal, bringing their strengths and assets to the table. In that way, we will be able to overcome this challenge of our generation. There's no magic solution, though. There's no single strategy that is going to solve this challenge. We've combined our resources to create more than 7,000 units of housing in this region. That is second only to New York and Los Angeles. A remarkable achievement and a testament to the commitment of the folks in this room and elsewhere. We've increased efforts, as I said, to prevent people from falling into homelessness. Temporary help with utilities, for example, or with rent, can make the difference between a family on the edge of homelessness staying housed or ending up on the streets or in a shelter. But the bottom line is that government simply cannot create enough housing to deal with the challenges created by much larger forces in the economy. I've long said that government provided housing, government subsidized housing is an indispensable part of the solution, but it cannot be the solution. We cannot possibly produce the volume of housing we need. So we have vouchers for private housing stock, and we need more landlords to step up and accept those. And we need, parenthetically, to continue to work toward the conditions where the private market can be providing more housing that's affordable to more of the people who live and work in this community. There have to be solutions like this one we're talking about tonight, though, that can bridge the gap between that government housing or that affordable housing built with government funds and that purely private sector market rate housing. There is a big space between those two, and you are a big part of the solution. King County and our partners have increased programs to help with homeless individuals and families and vets to rebuild their lives through job training and coaching. And let me just tell you in closing about a couple of aspects of that. Community Employment Services is funded by the Veterans and Human Services Levy. That helped 313 homeless people in 2013. 98% of them, 98% completed job training, 87% of those got jobs, and fully 70% earned enough in their jobs to be fully self-sufficient. That is a very large number of people who've gone from homelessness and in some cases hopelessness to full self-sufficiency. The Aerospace and Manufacturing Pilot Project was a project that worked with returning veterans to train them for new careers here at home. Nearly a quarter of the veterans in the project were in fact homeless when they entered the training program. And of those, 85% became employed. Another success, and the way in which we can help not merely by providing shelter for people, but providing them the opportunity to take care of themselves. I want to thank Zillow for hosting us tonight. This discussion is an interesting and very exciting one for me. And together I really believe that we can end homelessness in King County. It goes beyond the housing we're talking about tonight. It goes to the economy and connecting people who are struggling with the jobs that are expanding continually here. But we can do it. We have the resources, and I think we have the will. And with your help, we're going to move this project forward over the course of the next year, one home at a time. Thank you.
Thanks, Cal. It's great to hear both what we're doing here in King County and your optimism about where we're going. I did want to ask Hayhook to tell us a little bit about, the mayor has a commission on housing affordability, and can you tell us what's going on with that one?
Thanks so much, John. I just want to echo the thanks to Zillow and all of our private landlords out here in the audience. I want to take a couple of steps back and say Mayor Murray has been in office now 11 months. And one of the exciting things about working for this administration is he came into office with some pretty deep networks and established relationships already. The fact that the mayor at one point was also a colleague with our current King County executive in our state legislature probably helped. When you were 29, sir. The fact that he has the connections to Olympia, as maybe our most recent election results maybe were not as happy as some of us would like, but these are relationships that he brings. I know former Representative Bill Hinkle was in this room earlier. So one of the exciting things about being part of this new city administration is not just the fact that we are working for a mayor who's getting things done in City Hall, but who really has both relationships as well as the vision to work collaboratively with the King County government, which is going to be so critical to all of our successes, but also with our federal partners. And I just want to say, just to add on to what you heard earlier, 3 pieces of data that I think are really driving what the mayor is focused on. One, earlier this year, Seattle surpassed Boston as one of the fastest growing large city. Seattle was the fastest growing large city in the country, surpassing Boston's population. Second piece of data, From 2010 to 2013, Seattle saw the steepest increase in rent of any major US city. Third piece of data, from 2010 to 2013, the number of unsheltered homeless individuals in Seattle increased by 30%. Those are not all statistics that are necessarily causal or correlative to each other, but those are three pieces of data that are really at the heart of what today's launch of the launch of today's program is about, and what we need to do at the local and federal, state levels to do a better job of integrating our efforts. Those statistics, if we let them go down their current trajectories, are going to make Seattle and our King County region incredibly unaffordable and incredibly polarized. That's not a community that is part of the executive's vision for this region. It's certainly not the vision that our mayor has. And it's really in all of your hands to help the city, help the county, to help our federal government decide whether or not we're going to stop that trajectory, or whether or not we're going to let that trajectory run away and leave Seattle in a very, very much worse place than we have the ability to affect. So with that, I just want to add my thanks to the incredible commitment that all of you are showing in wanting to be a partner with our different levels of government to make sure that we are going to stop and reverse those trajectories.
Please join me in thanking all of our panelists. We have some challenges, but we have a lot of good people working on it, including you, and we're glad to have you here tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Thanks, Hayok. Thanks, Dow. I really appreciate everyone being here. We're gonna really close with that. I think the message has been clear. We are really looking for partnership, and I think we're bringing a lot to the table. We're really looking for that partnership from landlords. We have some cards here with us tonight that are for landlords to sign on to. We have a website which is onehomekc.org. It's a way for landlords to learn a little bit more about the initiative, see some testimonials from other landlords. We'll be posting video and press about the event and the campaign there as well. Finally, before you leave, take an opportunity to talk with some of our partners along the wall here, from United Way to Landlord Liaison Project, our housing authorities, the Committee to End Homelessness, and more, the Gates Foundation. So thank you everybody for coming, really appreciate it, and stick around for drinks and food. So thanks so much.